The following program contains controversial subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome yet again. It's a Tuesday night, and What's the Buzz is live and on the air. WWTF Radio Network proudly presents What's the Buzz globally and around the world, nationwide and around the world. I'll get this right one of these. Amelia,
Yes.
you should have given me my denture fixed. I needed it tonight. How are you, kid?
I'm doing good. How are you?
My co-host, Amelia Pitbull Chapman, joins me every Tuesday and Thursday night. She's here yet again. I keep trying to get rid of her, but she keeps coming back. Damn it.
You can't get rid of me that easily.
Special guest tonight. This is somebody that you turned me on to, and I'm glad
Yes.
you did, because he's a hell of a little author here.
Yes, he is.
I want to get into introducing this young man. Alistair Cross is with us tonight. He is describes himself as a horror and dark fantasy author. Let me tell you a little bit about Alistair Cross. Alistair Cross grew up on horror movies and scary movies and tales of what lies beneath. I love that kind of stuff. The creepy crawlies. Oh, that's beautiful stuff.
Yes.
By the age of 8, he was writing his own creepy crawly stories. First published in 2012, he has since co-authored The Cliffhouse Haunting and Mother with Tamara Thorne and is working on several other projects. His debut novel, The Crimson Corset, is on Amazon bestseller, and that's no small task, by the way. The Midnight Ripper, book 4 of the Vampire of Crimson Cove series, is due out this summer of 22. Currently, Thorne and Cross, our host of Thorne and Cross, Carnival Macabre, where listeners can discover all manner of demented delights, unearth terrifying treasures, and explore the unknown. Jeez, that sounds like every week here on What's the Buzz.
Right? It sure does, doesn't it?
Please welcome, making his first appearance on What's the Buzz, horror author, Alistair Cross.
Yes, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me, you guys.
Welcome to the show.
It's nice to have you here.
Yes.
You have, I'll tell you what, you have been kind of all the rage here lately. When Amelia gets on, you got to understand something.
Mm-hmm.
When Amelia gets on a kick, okay, she don't let go of it. So she wore me down till I booked you, okay. So I had to get you on here. But what's all the buzz about this? Young, dashing, good-looking guy who happens to write really great horror stuff. I fucking hate him already. Damn. And I read by the way, and Alistair sent me. Hold up your book, Amelia.
Yes,
Alistair
absolutely.
sent me this one. This is called The Silver Dagger. This is part of the Vampires of Crimson Cove series. This is book 2.
Uh-huh.
Okay. You've got book number what?
Book 1.
Number 1. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He should have sent me number 1 so I could read that first and send you number 2 because I'm the host of the show and I'm more important.
But see, now you have to go. You have to go buy it. See how that works?
But
there
we're
you
gonna,
go.
We're going to rustle some. I assure you, before this show is over, we will rustle at least number 1 and number 3 for me, and we'll get you number 2 and number 3.
Okay,
and when
there
number
you go.
4 comes out, we'll buy it.
Right?
We could do at least
I'll
that
definitely
much.
buy number 4 if I get 2 and 3.
All right.
By the way,
See, there you go. I got 2 and 3.
A quick shout out to our friend at Turbo Cola, and I want to make sure that our all of it, like Nick and and Sean and oh god, and I forgot the kid's name already. Oh, anyway, but all these great kids from Turbo Cola, Amelia and I were going to get some free shirts, but I said, you know what? I'm going to support this film financially, so we bought our T-shirts because that's what we do around here. We do support people. So I want Alistair Cross to know that we're not a bunch of cheap bastards around here that just want free merch. Free merch is good, but we also buy stuff.
Yes.
So,
Right.
you give us number 1 and number 3, and I'll buy number 4.
Yes, I'll buy number 4. Absolutely.
I might even be generous and buy a copy for Amelia.
Oh,
As long as it's under $30.
yeah.
Then she could buy her own. So let's
Right?
talk to this young man.
Yes,
I want to
please,
talk
let's
to
do
this
that.
young man, Alistair Cross. So Alistair, a question for you. You're a young guy. Your bio says you started writing, your own kinds of horror when you were like 8, 9 years old. Is that correct?
Yes. I just, I mean, it was all, ripping off other stuff, but yeah, like I'd see, Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, or, Carrie, and have some great idea and kind of make up my own story, and,
So let me ask you a question. What was it sure, young, 8, 9 years old, even 7 younger than that. Your interest in like scary stuff. I mean, you always were gravitated towards scary movies and, spooky stories, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's. I was a really hyperactive kid, and so I think in a lot of ways it was a simple matter of that's what held my attention, because it was so flashy and charged.
Right.
I couldn't sit through Little House on the Prairie, for example. Like I just couldn't sit through it.
I can't even remotely see you writing anything like Little House.
Yeah, no.
Not even close.
Unless it's Laura Ingalls starts to kill people, no.
Right.
Yeah, right. Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
That's a hallmark moment. Alistair Cross saying Little House on the Prairie.
Right.
Damn.
Right.
So, my question then, would the obvious progression would be, you started writing your own stories at like 8 years old. And so where did these fanciful ideas come from? How were they generated?
The same. I'd say the same then as it is now, which is everything you see, everything. I read a lot. I like horror movies. It's kind of everywhere. That's like where do you get your ideas? Everywhere. I mean, you can be sitting in a restaurant and overhear a snippet of a conversation at the table next to you, and it can spark something.
Do you take real life situations and bend them? You know what I mean when I say bend them? Yeah.
Yeah, not as much as possible. I don't actually, and the reason for that is mainly because I don't really think. I mean, I think it's impossible to write anything without some of you coming out, a little bit of your life, your experience. You're obviously, it's going to come out. But my interest has always been the characters, and I love, learning their stories. I really have never, at least not consciously, thought, oh, this happened to me, I'm going to put this in a book. I'm not interested in my life. My life is just, you know what I'm saying? I'm more interested.
I was actually just going to ask you about that. How much of Alistair Cross are we reading?
Not much.
Okay.
Not much at all. Yeah.
It's very interesting you say that, because we just did a couple of shows where the opposite was true and had to be. We spoke to a stage performer just recently, and of course we had an entire cast of a film here. And the idea in performance and acting is yourself cranked up to 11.
Yeah.
But your situation is divergently opposite, where there's very little of you, but almost all, like say 95%, is this fanciful idea, this notion in your head that becomes from brain to paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to say, like I said, that some of who you are and what you've experienced isn't going to come out. But I've never done it. I've never done it consciously. And the strange reality is, you're writing along. I do a lot of multiple points of view, meaning, 1 minute I'm in, this 20-year-old woman's head. The next minute I'm coming from the point of view of a 70-year-old man, and everything in between.
Yes.
I don't really know where it comes from, but I don't know how I would possibly inject too much of myself into that. That's kind of the phenomenon of writing. Really, is where does it come from? Where do how do you just all of a sudden just
It
one
is
of the
interesting. It really, really is, as a character study, and you're talking to a guy who it loves to delve into the psyche of a character.
yeah,
But
and that's
by
what I love.
nature, yeah, and by nature of what I have done my whole life, that, and what I do now as an interviewer, I get into people's heads, but almost from a voyeuristic standpoint.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I'd explain it. Actually, that's a good way of putting it. It's being the fly on the wall. I'm not when I'm writing. I'm not thinking, about myself. I'm thinking about these characters, and I'm going along, finding out, things about them. It sounds kind of weird, but things about them as they present information to me.
Yeah.
And that sounds really weird. And I don't know if people, it's kind of hard to quite understand, but it really is true. You're just, an example is the series that the Crimson Cove series. Gretchen, one of the main characters. I invented her, little petite blonde, for the sole purpose of demonstrating how a vampire might die. So in essence, she was supposed to be this throwaway character. She was supposed to just come on, get killed, go away. As soon as I got into her head, she just, yep, that's her. she just kind of takes over, and she's totally this outrageously sadistic, horrid, hypersexual, crazy lady,
Yeah.
and she just took over, and she sent the whole series in a whole new direction. She was supposed to be a throwaway, and yet she was the central figure. I don't know how to explain that.
You just brought something up that is the concurrent theme in almost every horror genre. And I'm substantially older than you, but I could tell you back to the early 60s, because I can remember that far back, giving away my age. But the sexual element and horror have been inextricably linked for eons. Why is that? And then I'll go to Amelia. How's that for a segue?
Well, if I had to take a guess, I would say that horror revolves around death and terror, and sex revolves around creation and pleasure. So, in some respect, I suppose you could say that they're kind of opposite ends of the same spectrum. So they kind of could naturally go together.
Yeah, they really are. Amelia, you brought this young man to me. You are up. Unmute your microphone, please.
Okay. Hi. Yes. The poetry that you normally wrote when you were a kid, and I know that one of the stories that your teacher had you write for Halloween, a Halloween theme, it basically ridiculed the teacher in front of their whole class, and you said that actually got you into writing. Was that really what tormented you into writing the horror, and it got you and more into that?
It it wasn't only in the sense that I was already kind of doing that. I was about 8 at that time, and it was for Halloween, and it was an assignment to write a scary story. And I wrote a story about a serial killer who's also a ghost. So yeah, so so
Interesting.
yeah, so and she just didn't like it or didn't like me. I don't know, but she was really hard on it. She read everybody's out loud, but she refused to read mine out loud. She made this big, I don't even know what this is. This doesn't make any sense. Throw it down. It wasn't what made me decide to start writing horror, but it was a pivotal moment when I said to myself, I'm going to do this. And I know that sounds really, I don't know what that says about what kind of person I am, but I thought I do. I remember.
We should take you out back and flog you with a stick.
Well, it got you to write wonderful books. I tell you that right there.
Absolutely.
That's what it got
Absolutely.
you.
As
that
you
teacher.
were speaking, we were holding our books up. These are amazing books.
Yes, they are.
I have a book here, Alistair, in my hand that finishes off somewhere around 451 pages.
Mm-hmm.
You've written multiple books that exceeds 400 to 500 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that kind of creativity come from, and can you turn it off once it rolls?
Well, sometimes you don't turn it off, which is why it's an ongoing series. A lot of it is the fact that there are so many characters. Like, I like exploring different points of view. I like getting into this person's head and this person's head. I like seeing the world from different people's perspectives. So I don't think I could write a 500-page book from one person's point of view.
Right.
That would be a lot harder. It's easy, and I have A stories, B stories, C story. The plot, the subplot. That helps too. I did write one. I've written a murder mystery. It is called Sleep Savannah Sleep, and that was from one person's point of view. It's from a single point of view. I never left his head. I never left the main character's head, and that was like 350 somewhere pages, much shorter.
Alistair, I've written 2 books. Each book was around 125 pages, give or take a couple pages. It took me almost a year to write that 125 pages. How long does it take you to crank out a 500-page book?
It's not that fast. My biggest book is Dream Reaper. I don't know exactly how many pages it is, but it's over 500, and it's this big, small town, saga thing with good versus evil, and that's over 500 pages. But that took me about a year and a half. But to be fair, I'm always working on 3 books at a time. So
that was my next question.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Do you work simultaneously?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I work with Tamara Thorne all day. We start in the morning and we go about 7 to 9 hours, somewhere in there. And we spend an hour and a half to 2 hours on our collaboration, an hour and a half to 2 hours on the Ravencrest Saga, which is also a collaboration, but it's an ongoing series, and then the next hour and a half to 2 hours on.
Can we explore that a little bit? You mentioned Tamara Thorne. Can we explore that the collaboration / relationship, if there's any there? So how did my understanding is that you met kind of serendipitously?
It's
by happy accident.
It's a strange story. It's one of those things that happens in life that you almost wouldn't believe it if it didn't happen to you. But interestingly, to condense it as much as possible, I grew up reading horror and loving horror, and I remember when I was about 18 or 19 years old, I was in a library and I saw a book it said Moonfall, Tamara Thorne on it, and I thought, well, that looks good, and I picked it up and I liked the cover. I checked the book out. I went home. I loved it. I didn't even have a computer at the time. I didn't have internet. My mom had dial-up. So I'd go to my mom's house and I'd hang out on her internet because I loved the internet. And I remember looking up Tamara Thorne and looking for more books and wanting to read more of her books. So I was a big fan, and this was 20 some odd years before I met her. You know, so I was a big fan, and then in 2013, you know, I had just gotten published, and I realized I didn't really know any authors, and so I thought, what I'll do is I'll start interviewing authors on my blog. I had a little blog, and she was one of the authors that I asked, one of the first ones, in fact, and we just hit it off. And she asked me if I wanted to write with her, and I was absolutely floored. And of course, I said yes. And I thought, you know, this could go one of two ways. And this was 10 years ago. We're still going. We don't fight. It's amazing. I can't explain it.
That's remarkable. You know, she was. I knew when you mentioned her name. I knew who she was.
Right.
She's quite an accomplished author in her own right.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever find a competitive nature between the two of you?
You know, it's amazing. Not really. We really, no, we've never. Of the two of us, I'm much more. What's the word? I'm much more unpleasant, I guess. She's much more laid back.
Oh, okay.
I can be a little, you know, pushy. Like I want to get things done. I'm really strict about. You know,
that
schedule.
Surprises me. That really surprises me because you look like the laid back one. You look like the guy,
the quiet one.
Funny. Yeah, you look like the guy that would, like, you know, kick back in his recliner and light up a bone, you know, and kind of chill out a little bit, you know.
I am deceptively militant.
Good for you. Amelia, questions for Alistair Cross.
Well, he did say, you know, if you prefer reading by flickering candlelight in the dark, quiet dungeon instead of on a sunny beach, you're in the right place. If a mysterious noises in the dead of night make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, have a seat. If sex and violence and scandal excite you more than they should, kick off your shoes and stay a while. If you like that kind of fiction that bites back, welcome to the dungeon. What about that quote?
That I got a website years ago. I'm getting a new one right now, but I was told, oh, you have to put something on your main page. And I'm like,
yes, I love that quote. That's one of my favorites.
You know, I'm like, you can bore people with it, you know. But anyway, so I just thought, well, I'll just kind of, you know. So I put
as you can tell, I don't go to the beach much, if you can tell.
Me neither.
I'm a letter at the beach, Alistair.
No, I'm more of a dungeon person. So there you go. I came out of my dungeon.
You're going back into your damn dungeon after this show.
I got a book to finish. I got a book to finish reading almost here. I'm almost done with it. So yeah, I got a book.
I'm kidding. Ask some more questions, please.
No, I was also going to say that Stevie Nicks was one of your influences to write your poetry. Is there any other artists that have influenced you to write some of your poetry or your novels? I noticed that you like the name Belinda.
Yeah, you know, Belinda is an interesting story about that. But you know, I'm inspired by so much. Stevie Nicks. For some reason, when I discovered her when I was like 8 years old too. It was an accident. I just liked the picture on the cover of the album and grabbed it and just fell in love with the voice. But then I started hearing the words, and those, you know, she writes a lot of imagery. It's not just like, oh, I feel this way, I feel that way. It's like she puts, you know, images in your mind, which for me, going back to, you know, me being a kind of hyperactive kid, that really worked for me. So it just kind of got me writing. It got the wheels turning. So in a way, that's kind of ground zero, I guess, where a lot of this may have started. But as far as, you know, I'm really inspired by other authors. I'm inspired by, you know, music, movies, people. It's kind of across the board. And it's not necessarily just horror either. I love Downton Abbey. I don't know why, but I really like Downton Abbey, and I can watch that and go, oh, that can answer a question or solve a problem that I'm having in something I'm writing, which is, you know what I mean? That's weird.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
When we talk horror, the names that come up repeatedly. In fact, we just had another horror author on the show, a gentleman actually that I think you may know him, Carver Pike.
Yeah, I do. I've seen him around. I have not. I don't know him, but we're connected on Facebook and probably Instagram too. And yeah.
But one of the things that we talk about when we talk horror, the same 5 or 6 names come up: Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Clive Barker, Peter Straub, Bram Stoker, and then of course the names like Mary Shelley, Anne Rice. My particular favorite, Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, me too.
H.P. Lovecraft, Ramsey Campbell, Richard Matheson, Ray Bradbury, and Dan Simmons.
Right.
These are amazing names from literary horror. Not too damn shabby either, by the way. What would it mean to you to have your name cross among King and Shelley and names like Rice? What would that mean to you to be considered one of the masters?
I would be glad, but I mean that's not my. I mean, I would be flattered. I would be, but that's something that the readers decide. You can't really strive for something like that. I mean, you can, but that's something that's going to be that the readers are going to decide, and that's okay. I would be flattered, but it's not something I think about. It's not the reason.
It's interesting you gave that answer. It's very, very telling that you gave that answer. I got to see Stephen King give a lecture, and he said he never set out to be the greatest horror writer or the greatest writer. He set out to be a guy who wrote good stories.
Right.
That was his only goal, was to write good stories.
Well, and how would you do that anyway? I mean, how would you say, I'm going to be the best horror writer or whatever kind of writer out there? According to who? I mean, no matter what you do, some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it.
Well, I think the answer to it's a very valid question. You ask a very valid question. And I think the answer to that question is obviously simple. It's your reader, it's your audience who makes you great.
Right.
By choosing your work, they make you great.
Absolutely. You can't. I mean, all you can do is think about being the best that you can be, writing the stories that you love and making them the best you can make them. And it's after that, it's out of your hands. It's just like, I mean, life is like that. It's not just writing. I mean, how much control do you really have in life? Not as much as we like to think.
Yeah. Amelia, questions for Alistair Cross?
Yes, absolutely. I noticed that also you were wanting to be a paramedic at one time and give up writing. Was that something you still had wanted to do if writing was one of the things you couldn't do anymore?
It wasn't. This was actually before I settled on writing. I had always written, but I went through, once I got out of high school, and even in high school, I was told, because this is just the generation that I was, we were told, you do something practical. You're not going to go be, a rock star. You're not going to go be, a writer. You're not going to be a movie star. You got to find something practical. So for a long, long time, for years, I wasted a lot of years trying to find something practical to do. And one of the things that kind of interested me was paramedics, because I learned through, few weird events that I have really good emergency response. And I thought, well, then, I believe that you have talents and skills that you have for a reason, and you should use them. And I thought, well, that's what I'll do. But of course, it never really went anywhere because I'm in love with the idea of it. And anyway, by the time I was, as I got older, I kind of started rethinking everything I was doing. I never found that practical thing to do that was supposed to be so, be a lifeline, and And so I just said, you know, to hell with it, and I'm going to be a writer. I went and did it, and it turned out to be the most practical thing I've ever done.
There you go. Follow
Now,
your dreams.
the obvious question, at least in my case, I had to deal with this. I'm curious whether you had to deal with it. Did you have the particular family members? We're not going to name them, but did you have those particular family members who said you're wasting your time? Go get a real job, or did your family encourage you?
You know, neither one, because I always did work full time before I was writing full time. I did work, and I didn't really tell anybody what I was doing, because I didn't really talk about it a whole lot until it was a done deal. I would go to work and I would come home, and I wrote my first book, which never got published, you know, which is a good thing.
And that's why you're smarter than me, because I made the mistake of telling them.
I
should have kept my fucking mouth shut.
I'm inclined to agree. I think you know what? If you want something, you go get it. And this comes down to, one of the rules of writing is show, don't tell. Right? Meaning don't tell the reader what's happening, show them what's happening. Well, you know what? That applies to life too. When you go around telling people what you're going to do, you're opening yourself up to all kinds of suggestions, advice, discouragement, even encouragement, and that's great. But I much prefer to just do it and show them rather than tell them. That's my point.
Yeah. I'm going to prove your point for you. I'm going to prove your point for you. And if people think that I'm making a word of this up, it's absolutely true. And you can validate it anywhere. I have this podcast and this radio network. 5 years ago, it was an idea.
Right.
4.5 years ago, it became a reality. Because I didn't tell anybody what the hell I was doing.
Right.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. There's some sort of, it's like you're leaking your power.
Right.
Like going out and telling everybody, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. No, just lose 30 pounds and let them say, wow, you lost 30 pounds.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Amelia.
Yes.
You want to tell everybody what time of the show it is now?
Yes, show and tell time.
Her favorite, but she gets so excited when I show pictures.
All right.
Alistair Cross, welcome to your very first show and tell.
Show and tell.
All right.
Okay. There's Alistair Cross.
There I am.
Anyway, a lot of people, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that picture. Where's that photo at? Hold on.
It's a lot of forehead.
Yeah, right? A lot of people commenting about that. Okay, so we got a couple of things. The Ravencrest Saga. Now, this is another one that's part of a series, right? There's like the three.
Yeah. There's actually this what we're looking at right here is the box set. So it's the first 3. There's actually 4 books out now, and we're starting the 5th.
Oh, I got it. So what we're looking at, this is the culmination of it, right?
Yeah, this is just the first 3 in a box set.
I got you. Okay, great. Okay, as I was curious about that set intrigues me. I think it's something I might want to read. Hint, hint. Where did the Midnight Ripper come from?
In the last book, The Black Wasp, which one of you have, the character Michael Ward is a vampire who's a peace-loving, kind of hippie-esque vampire, very peaceful. Anyway, he's an addict, though, and he's been suppressing his carnal and his bloodthirst and his sexual appetites for centuries. But when he's an addict, and when it goes off the rails, he does it right. And so in the last book, book 3, The Black Wasp, he starts going off the rails, and he starts basically, slaughtering people and satisfying all his appetites. And he earns the moniker the Midnight Ripper from the authorities and the local people in Crimson Cove. And so when I started writing book 4, before I knew I was going to take my main characters to follow him and try to stop him or whatever. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I knew the Midnight Ripper would be the right title for that.
The book we're looking at now is called Dream Reaper.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me for a couple of reasons. The artwork on the cover of this book is eerily similar to me anyway, because again, I'm old and I remember shit. It's eerily similar to an old movie about a possessed ventriloquist dummy. And the face on that cover looks like the dummy in this old classic black and white horror film, where the ventriloquist dummy like comes to life and kills people.
Yeah, that is Gremory Jones. That's his name, and he's a demon. And, one day, here's how he came. I was going for a walk. I jog and I walk, and I kept seeing this guy. I was with somebody, and I saw this guy, and he's walking down the street. And he had a briefcase and a hat and a chain, and he was smoking a cigarette with one of those long cigarette holders. And I don't know who he was or what he was doing or why he was dressed like that, but I looked at the person I was with and said, "There goes my next guy. There goes my next villain." And I immediately started writing this guy, and he's a wicked dude. He was one of the most fun characters.
That is based on a real person.
Yeah, somebody
that makes it even creepier.
Yeah, I know, right?
He wasn't as creepy as this. He was more of a classy, but I got to
right.
It.
Here is the Vampire Crimson Cove series. There are all 3 books. Of course, I don't have all 3 books. I only have book number 2. Amelia has book number 1. How she ended up with book number 1, I want to know.
It was nice.
But I assure you, by the end of this broadcast, I will have book number 1 and 3. I assure you, I will have book number 1 and 3 by the end of this show. Now, I digress. This is the Cliffhouse Haunting. This is a collaboration with Tamara Thorne and yourself, Alistair Cross. Talk to me about the inspiration for Cliffhouse Haunting. Was it based on a real place?
Kind of. It's a little bit based on the Brookdale Lodge in California, which is allegedly haunted. And this is the first book that Tamara and I wrote together, and we knew we wanted it to be a haunted house story. And this is another one that's it's a big, good-sized book with lots of characters, and you will be interested to know that by the time we edited this book to get it to where it was condensed enough to be published, we cut 50,000 words out of it.
Wow.
Yeah, we just like to talk. We like to write. But And so, and this right here, what we're looking at here, this is one of Tamara's.
Now, not having the benefit of having Tamara here, you're familiar with this work called Haunted.
Oh yeah.
What is the story behind Haunted?
Haunted is it's another haunted house story, and it's about a writer who he buys a house. He and his daughter move in, and he's very skeptical, but he learns the hard way that there's more to life than he might think. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
There's the Midnight Ripper. We were just speaking about that. This is I think this is Amelia's autobiography. Let your dog play.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say.
That's called Payback, woman.
Yeah, this is a poster that I
he said I was nice to him, so yes, thank you.
This is clearly. This is obviously your the tagline for the Vampire Crimson Cove series.
Right.
That was. It seems to me like that was your Here I Am world moment. The Vampire of Crimson Cove.
And and to be able to keep going with it also proves that you have, it makes you feel like you're not just somebody writes a book and then disappears. That's the Cliffhouse. That's the original cover of Cliffhouse Haunting. We had that redone just because it's to match our other ones.
I have a question for you. Why the different cover art photos?
Mainly because this was the first book that we did, and we ended up using a different cover artist later, and we just kind of wanted to match. I love this cover, though. I got to be honest. I love this cover.
Yeah, this one fascinated me because I know absolutely nothing about this book whatsoever. Again, Thorne and Cross. It's called Darling Girls. What's the premise of it without giving the book away?
Okay, so this is an interesting. Okay, so Tamara has a vampire novel called Candle Bay, and she wanted to write a sequel to it. She wanted me to write it with her. And so what we ended up doing is this is a sequel to Candle Bay, but it also incorporates. This is the first time we really merged our solo worlds.
Right.
So my vampires meet her vampires, and they go on a road trip to a spooky, weird little town called Eternity, which is also title and subject of another one of the Amazons, Eternity. And they're at a festival, and there's a big, showdown, and it's like basically, this is where our vampires really come together.
Interesting. I love the artwork. It really is.
Oh yeah, it's nice.
This is we referred to this in my opening intro. This is again Tamara Thorne and Alistair Cross. This is Mother.
Yeah.
Now, please don't tell me this was based on anything autobiographical.
No. We both had really good moms, and we talked about this. We even dedicated it to both of our mothers, who are nothing like the mother in this book. We wanted to get on that. This is purely fiction. I would never survive a mother like the mother in Mother. She's the mother of all mothers. I gotta say.
Oh man, I got the mother of all mothers. Trust me when I tell you. Man, I had to throw that photo in for sex appeal, by the way.
All right.
Because we have a lot of women. This one is interesting. The Angel Alejandro.
Okay.
It's
This looks a little different from your normal kind of writing.
And here's why. Because what that is Dream Reaper. That was the original cover and title of Dream Reaper. Because there's demons, and it went out this way. I love it.
Wow.
I love it. It's beautiful, but it's not.
That's beautiful.
It's not really representative. This looks a little more like romance, and there is romance in it, but it's a little horrific for a cover like that.
This is called Five Nights in a Haunted Cabin. What is this here? It says night 3.
All right, so Five Nights in a Haunted Cabin is actually a true ghost story. This is where Tamara and I first met for the first time face to face. We met online, and we've been writing together for a couple of years before we actually met face to face. And when we did meet face to face, we did it at a haunted cabin that was allegedly haunted. We took notes of everything that happened. We put it into a book, and the book was published. And the reason it says night 3 on there is because this would be like the podcast I would think, or the audiobook and stuff.
Right.
Night 1, night 2, night 3.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's what that is. It's nonfiction. Ghost story.
Interesting stuff. So based on a real life event. Okay.
Yeah.
Again, there's something I know very little about. I don't know this particular work, Old Wives' Tales.
This one is not out yet. This is the one that Tamara is working on.
Oh,
right.
This is brand new. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I know nothing about it.
Yeah. She's working on this one, and I'm working on, she's not too far behind me. I just finished The Midnight Ripper. It's getting edited. She's just about to finish this one.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with her work, and I thought to myself, I don't really know that one. Well, now I know why I don't know that one. It's not out yet. Okay, this is called Sleep, Savannah, Sleep. And I don't know anything about this, but my gut feeling tells me that there's some element of truth involved here.
This is the one that's the murder mystery. That's the one where I was telling you I never left the I stayed in one point of view. The interesting thing about this book is the whole plot came to me. I mean, scene by scene. This is not how it happened to me. Scene by scene, all over the course of one night. I went to bed. I got this idea. I got up. I wrote it down. I went back to bed. Another next idea came. I got up. I went down, up, down, up, down. Finally, I'm just going to stay up. Stayed up, hammered it out, got the whole outline done, and wrote the first draft in about 27 days.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
It took a long time to edit, but it just came out really, really fast. I don't really know where it.
That's a long edit, brother.
Yeah.
Holy
Yes.
crap.
Yeah. It was a pretty rough draft, but it's yeah. So
I want to talk after we do show and tell. I want to talk to you about your editing process.
Yes.
This
Pretty
here,
wide
this,
meadow
now,
stuff,
this
funny.
is your Carnival Macabre. We talked about this at the beginning too. So this is what is this, a podcast? Or
Yeah,
a
this is our podcast. We did a podcast where we interviewed authors for about 6 years, and we met some amazing people. But after 6 years, I was like, I'm done talking about other authors and their books, and I want to do something different. So we started Thorne and Cross Carnival Macabre, which is a we're always researching stuff. We're always knee deep in monsters and lore and all kinds of creepy stuff. And so we have all this research and this information saved us. So we thought what we could do is basically Thorne and Cross Carnival Macabre is we're talking about things we learned in our research.
I'll tell you what, it's everybody's got like a podcast these days, or some kind of radio format show. But it's like, it's the new thing, it's taking over the television. Nobody watches anything anymore. People, I can't tell you like the last time I watched the television where I saw anything good.
Yeah,
I go on my smart TV or my computer, and there's all kinds of great programming.
Absolutely.
I want to talk to you, Alistair, about two things. I want to talk to you about artwork, and I want to talk to you about your editing process. You mentioned a little bit of it. I did two things in life. I worked in professional wrestling, and I worked in the music business.
Oh, nice.
I was a sound engineer. I recorded bands. And I have quite a bit of editing background. I know what it's like for me to edit a song and to edit music together. It's like anything else. It's rhythmic. It's got a tempo. Does your writing and your editing have a tempo, a beat?
Definitely. I mean, you can spend, a really long time on a single sentence, not because your meaning isn't clear, but because it doesn't sound right. So it's all about tempo. It's all about rhythm and tempo. And that's where editing comes in, and that's where you really do that. You really tighten and make it sound right. If that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Amelia, questions for Alistair Cross.
All right. Because to that, it's like whenever you're trying to say in your head doesn't come out right on paper, and then what you're wanting to say in your head, it's not really coming out on paper is a lot. Just like when you're trying to say something like, it's dark.
Well, you know what, Amelia, not to interrupt you, but you just pointed out something brilliant, whether you know it or not.
Right.
Alistair, is there a disconnect from time to time between the brain and what you put on paper? Does it lose something once in a while between here and here?
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you can be going along, and I mean, if I'm understanding the question correctly,
how do you fix it if there's a disconnect?
Right, because if whatever sounds in here is not coming out right on when you're typing.
Exactly. Like you know what you want to say, but it's
not coming out.
That's about closest I've ever gotten to writer's block, I guess. It's very frustrating because, okay, so one of the things that I have a hard time with is like body movements, body motion. How do you explain someone sitting a certain way? What, body positions. I see it in my head. But how do you? And you have to be simple. You can't. Readers are not going to sit through a series of motions. You have to just simply, an example is a friend of mine, QL Pierce. She wrote something. She said, he lunged. Some guy lunged, landed cat-like on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, simple, concise. You see it in your head.
Right.
Landed cat-like. My first instinct is to try to describe his body the way it landed, and have to really simplify. That's where my disconnects come in. I overthink, and I really have to go back and really find, trust the reader. They're going to see it.
Yeah.
But,
do you? Well, let's talk about writer's block. Do you ever? I guess you answered the question I was going to ask. That's the closest you said to writer's block. Do you ever struggle with ideas? Am I saying that right? Do you ever struggle with like formulating an idea?
Yes.
And having it come out the way you want?
Yes. I as for writer's block, I really look at it. I read, and that seems to be what solves that problem. I just read, and I'm like, oh, it just keeps the wheel spinning. Ideas. That's the thing. Here's what I've learned. I can't sit down and decide I'm going to come up with an idea. That just doesn't work. It never has a lot of time. I just sit down and start writing, and I know that sounds crazy. Just your fingers start moving on the keys, your mind starts going, and you get these ideas. But I can't just think of an idea. I've never thought of an idea, if that makes sense. I've never sat around going, okay, so I need, what would be good here? What would be? Just let it happen as you're going. That's my process, and I think everybody's.
Yeah. Let's talk about artwork now. One of my favorite things. I love the visual of your book covers. In fact, one of the things we talked about with Carver when he was here is, about who does his artwork, and sometimes his girlfriend does, and sometimes he does, and sometimes other people do. Who inspires you to do this work? Do other people do your artwork for you, or do you come up with this?
Yeah, I couldn't create that. Basically, what happens is we have a designer, a cover designer. His name's Mike, and he designs websites, all kinds of stuff for a living. That's what he does. Mm-hmm. And I just really liked what he did, and so I just asked him if he would do more book covers, and said yes, of course. So like I'll go to him and I'll give him like this book is about there's kind of this and this. Just go with it, do your thing, because I'm not an expert at book covers. I'm not an expert at art. He is. So I believe in letting the experts shine where the experts shine. I think if I try to tell him how to do it, or I think I'm robbing myself of his expertise.
Right. Well, here's a question along those lines then, and it ties directly into what you're talking about now. Have you ever presented an idea to an artist and been let down? Maybe it didn't quite hit on all cylinders. Maybe it fell short of what you were looking for. Have you ever been disappointed?
I wouldn't say disappointed, but certainly like the cover for Mother was not at all what I had in mind. I had a whole different idea, and it just wasn't working. And he said, let's do this, and I went, okay, it's really simple, and I'm not disappointed in it, but it's not at all what I pictured.
Yeah.
It works. People, it works. It says what it needs to say.
You know what it's lacking? I'm a consumer. I can tell you what it's lacking.
What?
It's lacking blood. It's lacking some dagger puncture marks.
I agree.
It's not. It's lacking the gore factor that you would associate with a horror novel.
You would, but it's
right, Amelia?
Mother is much more psychological thriller than horror. It goes dark into that psychological thriller aspect, but it's not exactly horror. That's one that's a little bit different from what we usually do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Amelia, I am going to give you, young lady, the last questions of the night. Are you believing this has already been an hour?
I cannot believe it. It's already been an hour.
Been a fast hour, let me tell you.
It has been a fast hour.
Man. I have to have Alistair Cross back, and
absolutely
back with Tamara Thorne. I want
both of you guys together. That would be an awesome interview.
Absolutely. I want to see these two crazies together. Go ahead, Amelia. You got the final word of the night. Go ahead.
Yes. You said that you were writing usually 3 books at a time. Do you ever find yourself accidentally mixing an idea with another book?
Yes. Yes. One time we were writing and we couldn't figure out why it wasn't working, and it was in fact a character named Belinda, and we're like, oh my God, we're in the wrong book. She's in the wrong book.
You know what? I know people who write for a living. And I wouldn't even ask a question like that because it happens all the time. All the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a very observant question, Amelia. I'll give you one more, Amelia. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And also, I was going to say that, I know that writing ideas and things like that, and a lot of people want to know more about, have you ever thought of having any of the books turned into a movie or a series of a movie?
If that happened, we did have some interest in Mother, but as these things go, and clearly nothing ever became of it.
I could see that turning into a TV series. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, I would be okay with it. I'm not gonna stand in the way of that. But I'm a lot. I think I'm one of the only writers I've ever known that's not really my dream. Most writers, that's their big thing. They want. I wouldn't stand in its way, but I don't care if. I don't. It doesn't matter to me. If that happened, great. But it's not something that I.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend. This show has several friends in the film business. We got a lot of buddies in the film business.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready, you let me know, and I'll hook you up with some movie people.
All right.
I'll tell you what, and I'm a consumer, and I'll tell you what I think right off the bat.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the Vampires of Crimson Cove trilogy, at least the first 3, maybe all 4, for sure the first 3, that's got movie written all over it. Think about something.
Yeah, and I even got some of the Mother also here.
Yeah, but Amelia, think about something. The Twilight series started out as a book series.
It did. It did.
So you're in good company, Alistair.
Oh, absolutely. Even the Exorcist one too that you have here.
Yeah.
So listen, my friend, I want you to tell everybody where they can reach you, your social media, where they can buy your books. Tell everybody how to get a hold of Alistair and let them know Alistair Cross is here to stay.
All right. The simplest, fastest way is my website, which is just alistaircross.com, and there you will find the books, social media links, everything. And that's really anything you want to find. You can sign up for our newsletter, Probe, because we think it's pretty funny and outrageous, over the top, newspaper style monthly newsletter. Pretty funny, but it also has some gossip. It reads like a gossip rag, and it's good times. But on top of fun stuff, it's also deals handles, if something goes on sale.
And your people can get a hold of you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Instagram, and you'll find all that on my website.
All the social media, right, Alistair?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Before we sign off for tonight, I want to shout out to Brandon Keaton and the cast of Turbo Cola for making this an incredible experience. 377,000 streams worldwide.
Wow.
377,000. And they're coming back Thursday night for part 2. We will have Erin Nortze. We will have Anthony Notarelli and Jordan Denning here. Also, Brandon Keaton will be joining us. I tried to kick him off, but he won't let me. I love Brandon. He's a great guy. I wanted to put that shout out there.
Absolutely.
So, Amelia, tell everybody who's coming up. I mean, I just told them, Brandon, who else we got coming up?
June 29th and 30th, we're going to have part 2 and part 3 of Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. Oh, yeah, boy. Let me tell you
Pearl
what.
Jr.
That show, that exacerbated some tension. Let me tell you what. I never got hate mail before.
Uh-oh.
I'm getting hate mail from Michael. I'm not from Michael.
Well, maybe it's from him. You never know.
I'm getting the hate mail from, like, why are you bashing Michael? I'm not bashing Michael. Okay, I'm like the referee. I'm down the middle here. Okay, I don't have a dog in the fight.
Right.
Now, if we're talking Elvis, that's a whole different story.
Right.
Okay, now, we have Pearl Jr. coming back the 29th and 30th. On July 5th, we are going to talk about, we're talking about controversy, a conspiracy special. Just in time for the January 6th hearings, right? I've got Mike Cullen joining us from Alaska.
Wow.
He'll be on here to talk about the takeover of the U.S. government by parties unknown as to me right now. But he apparently knows who's taking over. Amelia, I'm going to mute the microphone because your headset is doing that crazy stuff again. On July the 7th, Angelo Capone and a surprise guest will be here. Angelo, by the way, is the country's leading Jerry Lewis impersonator. And he will be with us, and I will have a surprise guest joining us. That's all I'm going to tell you. So, for Alistair Cross, for Amelia Pitbull Chapman, I'm the Mad Dog, Angelo DeZippio. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.